Quiet Place Day 1, directed by Michael Sarnoski, stars Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn. As New York City is invaded by alien creatures who hunt by sound, a woman named Sammy tries to survive. This is the third installment in the Quiet Place franchise, acting as a prequel to the franchise set on the first day the alien invasion happens, obviously indicated by its title. I had seen the first movie, I didn't get a chance to look at the second part, but I feel like I wouldn't need to worry much since this movie is a prequel, and I was right. There isn't really much here that will make newcomers confused about what's going on when they see this. I'll start with the performances. I thought Lupita did pretty good here. Her character does start off as one of these asshole protagonists, basically being a dick to people around her, but in fairness, she starts off living in this hospice, so there's the underlying question of why she's like this to people. As the movie goes on and we see her being put into these situations present as this apocalypse goes on, we see more sides to her being caring to people and helping people out when it's needed. She's able to convey so much with her eyes in this, as she's not given many lines, which makes sense as everyone in it has to try their best to be silent, but she pulls off her facial expressions really well here. She says so much through it, which is always great to see. Her motives are pretty strange in this, as basically all of her actions hinge on her getting a pizza. And granted, we do get a reason why this is important to her eventually, but I did think at first it made for some odd choices when this was the main crutch of the movie. Joseph Quinn was alright here. He's not given all too much to do except follow Lupita around and look like a lost puppy the whole time, which will surely be a plus for the many teenage girls that will flock to this movie since they see him in Stranger Things. It's a good marketing choice, I'll give them that. He does convey terror pretty well too, from both having exaggerated, frightened expressions to the more subtle ones. It's made some of the more tense scenes in the movie work pretty well. The CGI in this movie isn't actually too bad. I was surprised seeing the creatures' designs still looking just as good as they did in the first movie, which is kind of what I was worried about. It feels like a recent thing in movies with CGI is that compared to movies only from a few years ago, they just look nowhere near as good, and that can be for many reasons nowadays, mainly being underpaid works with overly long hours, possibly making them retaliate by not doing that good of jobs, and also that being CGI is used a lot more frequently to cut corners. But the monsters here blend into the environments just as well as always. They always feel like they belong in this world that's created. When people are getting taken and killed by them, it does to an extent feel like it's actually happening in real time. It never felt too jarring or janky when there was moments like this. On to the rest of the movie too, I did find this to be quite a bit of a slog, especially in the middle portion of the movie. It just feels like a lot of meandering. I get we're seeing these characters survive, but it really is just a lot of walking and stopping for a good 30 minutes. And it wasn't as interesting as filmmakers thought it would have been. Another thing that bothered me was that the characters we follow in this movie feel pretty underdeveloped. For example, we meet Lupita's character in this hospice and we're only giving vague reason as to why she's there. We see what I thought was supposed to be a very brief flashback at some point, but not much else. All we really find out about her is this story with her dad who died sometime before the movie started, but outside of that there isn't much else to go off of. It's the same with Joseph Quinn. They almost write an excuse for why he's there because they don't make him American, thank God, but they say he moves here for school, but his character is really only here by chance, and again, we really know nothing about him other than that. I feel like these people were just pretty one-dimensional and the movie doesn't give us enough time to emotionally connect with them. I've had to sit through the trailer for this movie for a good few months now, so I can safely say straight up there's a lot of stuff in that trailer that's not in the movie, and you can almost tell by looking at it. It really does feel like there was a lot of things that were left on the cutting room floor, and I wonder how necessary the scenes that were left out were needed to be cut or not, or if they would have just serviced the movie more to make better moments, especially better character moments. The movie isn't too short either. It's about an hour 40, but for a majority of it, it feels like not really a lot happens when there should have been more time dedicated to making us care about the protagonists more. Obviously, this movie isn't very scary. I do consider these to be more action movies than horror or even thrillers at most, because they're not scary at all. There's some decent enough tense moments throughout that kept me engaged, but there are only very few of these moments. And for the most part, the scares are overly reliant on jump scares, and there's quite a few in this movie, none of which got me at all. They were written to be very formulaic. Whenever they're on screen, you'll always see them coming, don't worry. Overall, this movie is just alright. I think the first one is definitely a lot better, which isn't a surprise, and I also don't think it was needed to see the origins of how this apocalypse came to be. I just think the more that gets revealed about how this specific world works, the less interesting it ends up becoming. But at the same time, it can be fun seeing the chaos unfold for the first time, which is what apocalypse movies like this are usually pretty good at conveying. Just seeing how how things get worse as it goes on. Seeing things fall into chaos can always be exciting, which it is for the first 30 minutes, but after that, it did lose me for a while. I'm giving A Quiet Place Day 1 3 stars. It's well acted and presents a very cool set piece of a city slowly falling into decay, but in terms of its characters, it feels very half-baked, and I wish we got to learn more about the people we were following the whole time. I just don't think this is a franchise that needs to keep going and have loads more movies and spin-offs, but if and when the next one eventually does come out, I can only hope they take it in a more interesting direction before it becomes way too overly stale.